everyone. My name is Evie Lupine. Welcome back to my channel, and today I have another video for you all. Today, we're going to talk about kink quizzes, because after more than a decade of being the only decent kink identity quiz on the market, it looks like the famous BDSM test may finally have a rival, the Kink Orientation Scale, or KOS. But is it any good? We'll find out. So, this new scale was developed by a team of scientists led by Dr. Liam Wignall, a psychology lecturer at the University of Brighton. From what I can tell, he seems to have a particular focus on sexual well-being and kink, which is a good place to start from. As much as I love the fact that BDSM is finally getting more accurately studied in academia, I'm always a little nervous when a scientist comes along and says, "See, look, I've made a totally new test that will completely give everyone an accurate picture of their relationship to this niche and misunderstood area of human expression." Historically, they've always left a lot to be desired, to put it nicely. But anyway, the classic BDSM quiz is getting a more scientific version then? But why? Why did it need that? According to the research paper behind the KOS, quote, "Kink is gaining increasing visibility in Western cultures, where it is part of mainstream culture, commodified by consumer culture." Ooh, Liam, that is what I've been saying. I gotta read the paper they cite here. "And present in legal and policy discourse. There is increasing participation in kink cultures among the general population, and these cultures have diversified in terms of interest dynamics and location. Yet despite this, no validated instruments measure kink desire and practice, which may be one reason why the study of kink is marginalized in psychology and sexology. The purpose of the current study was to develop a measure of kink engagement that incorporates elements of desire, practice, and identity. The aim of this scale is to facilitate further research into kink by moving that focus beyond only those who engage in kink communities, and as such, capture a greater diversity of kink attitudes, practices, and identities." And I don't want to get my hopes up or anything, but so far, this is sounding pretty good, right? Like, better than a lot of papers like this I have read. And to be honest, many of the existing quizzes out there are, one, not created with a scientific approach at all and are just kind of slapped together by whoever, and two, only focus on the bedroom perspective or the lifestyle perspective, but very rarely, if ever, capture both. I know I've had to tell many people who take the BDSM test to eliminate the word sexual from all of the questions if they don't sexually relate to kink. Otherwise, the quiz will tell you you're vanilla if you say pain doesn't give you an erotic thrill or something like that. So I am hoping, though I don't know yet because I haven't looked at it, that the KOS will correct that error and make it more inclusive. I have seen some recent studies that will more readily acknowledge in academia that kink is not just all about sexuality, at least not alone. And I'm also curious to see how they delineate between community-focused kink and bedroom-focused kink. So then, let's take the quiz and find out, because conveniently, they've hosted this quiz online for the general public to be able to take. So what actually is involved in this quiz? According to the paper, this is an 18-item scale that explores different facets, with scores ranging from 18 to 90, with a higher score indicative of a higher engagement with kink. So it seems pretty short, fairly easy to interpret, but you know, hey, it's a first quiz like this. So maybe that just means there's more room to expand and grow with more research, because 18 questions to me, easy to get through, but can it really be that comprehensive with how wide kink is? But we'll have to wait and see once we actually take this quiz. And I think, compared to the BDSM test, that does have a shorter version, but the long version, if you really mull it over, it can take over an hour easily to get through all those questions. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get set up to look at the quiz. All right, so I am on the homepage right now, and I'm looking at it, and it says, this is the Kink Orientation Scale. This survey is not being used for academic purposes, which is always good to know whenever you have a research paper and a quiz comes out of it. You might be worried that they're collecting your data in some way. It doesn't appear that they're doing that, so that's good. Please state how much you agree or disagree with the following statements. And it looks to be the pretty standard, there's a set of things you can agree or disagree with, and then you can select from strongly disagree, somewhat disagree, neither agree nor disagree, and then somewhat agree or strongly agree. So that's what we got to work with right here. The background is some chili peppers in bondage, which is kind of cute. It's not too erotic, but it gets the point across. So points for that. I like the design of the website. It's a little bit difficult to read on mobile. That might be my one critique, but honestly, does anyone really care about that besides me? Probably not. So anyways, first question here. I would describe myself as kinky. Definitely strongly agree to that one. And then it automatically opens up the next question, which is, I am part of a sexual subculture, which is interesting because doesn't that also include swinging, for example? And there, depending on the swinger community and the individual, there can definitely be overlap between swinging and BDSM, but generally not very much. So I'm not sure why they would phrase it that way, maybe just to be as general as possible, but I feel like that might end up capturing people who are swingers or who do orgies at Burning Man or something, who maybe aren't kinky per se, but are sexually adventurous perhaps. So I'm not sure about how that one is phrased, but I would definitely say, if you were talking about kink as being a sexuality thing, then yes, but as I always have to say with these quizzes, for me, it's not a sex thing, but for the outside world, it's perceived as being a sex thing. So I guess technically, yes, strongly agree. I mean, I make videos about it for a living, so, I would hope that, I would hope that I'm part of the community. Friends describe me as kinky. Oh, this is interesting. I do, because this sort of depends. Are you out to your friends? Because I know a lot of people who in their everyday lives, they work in tech or they're an accountant or something, and they're very shy, mild-mannered, but in kink, they're totally out there, but their friends maybe wouldn't see that. And I think that probably has to depend a lot on, do you look visibly kinky? Are you out to other people? And I imagine, especially for a lot of submissive men, maybe they keep it way under wraps with their friends. So again, I don't know how accurate this is. I would love to see the research they have for why they chose this particular question, because I think there's lots of people who are probably very kinky in their private lives who their friends would not know about it literally at all. So I'm going to say definitely strongly agree. I think all my friends know that I'm kinky. My sexual interests are constantly evolving. That's an interesting one. Are they constantly evolving? I think early on in my kink journey, there was a couple year period of more intensive exploration. But again, I'm already kind of automatically substituting, I'm just getting rid of sexual and then I'm just replacing it with kink. Yeah, for me it's not sexual, but kink interests for sure. I think for the first year or so, there was a lot of learning about new things. But I think these days, being in the community for as long as I have been, I have a wide set of interests that I kind of change focus on depending on if I'm going to a big event or who I'm playing with at the time. But for the most part, it's a pretty settled but wide-ish range of kinks. So I would say probably neither agree nor disagree. I think that's probably the best one that fits with that. Ooh, my sexual interest can be risky. What does risk mean? What does risk mean anyways? I don't. Is anything you know what? Rough body play and stuff, bondage is pretty risky. Yeah, you know what? If fair enough, I think those are pretty risky. But also, I don't think that, there are lots of kinks that aren't risky at all. So, if you're into ABDL, UTIs maybe, pet play, UTIs again maybe, eating a dog biscuit that's made for dogs that means you get sick because you're not supposed to eat it as a human. There's risks, but is it risky compared to even vanilla sex? I don't know. I'll say strongly agree because especially with bondage, for example, it's very risky and I'm into that. So I will say that I agree with that. Pain can be fun in a sexual context. quiz, you're not allowed to hit me with questions like that. That's not, what, am I a masochist? The eternal question that I go back and forth about oh so often. Am I a masochist? I keep telling myself I'm not, and then I keep having experiences where I think if I told anyone about them, they'd be like, you did what? And then what happened? And then you did it again, and you don't think you're a masochist. I think despite how long I've been around for and how many things I've seen, I think I still have a mental block over, like, what counts as being a masochist. Yeah, I think it can definitely be fun. I think it depends on the pain, certainly, but I yeah, strongly agree. I'm not gonna think about it more than that. Just go with the first instinct on that. I have niche sexual interests. Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, strongly agree on that one. I think pet play is pretty niche. Again, like I'm not having as much of a trouble with this as I am when I take like the BDSM test. Like it doesn't bother me as much, is what I would say. But like they keep saying sexual, 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 and maybe it's because the author is coming from a sexology background. But like I said earlier in this very video, like there is more research that is validating the fact that people can be ace and be into kink, and that kink interests are not just about sexual pleasure. Like there was one study for another video that I was reading that was like 10% of the participants said that like they have no genital or sexual relationship to kink at all. So I'd like if maybe this could be a little bit more inclusive as far as that goes, but maybe I'm asking too much. Maybe I'm asking too much. I don't know. I know there's like at least like a 2-decade lead time on academia catching up to what the community is talking about, but maybe we can shorten that a little bit with the internet. Any case, sex toys are important in sex. Ooh, what counts as a sex toy? Because, like, okay, there's like vibrators, right? And like that's a sex toy, but I wouldn't call a flogger a sex toy. I wouldn't call bondage rope a sex toy. It's a toy, but it's not a sex toy. And this is where we get into, there's so many different ways to do kinks. Because, for example, somebody who's into hypno, they might not use any props at all. They're just all totally in the mind, right? Or humiliation play, all totally in the mind for a lot of people. Not always, but oftentimes it is, with those more emotional kinks. You might not use any toys, but you're still doing something that's really kinky. Like most vanilla people are not doing hypno casually in the bedroom. But certainly as I've gotten more experience in kink and as I've done more things, like toys are fun, but I think some of the most fun I've had in kink requires very minimal amount of gear. And like I don't tend to reach for it as much as I used to, and I tend to just I'm a very tactile person, I'm very hands-on. That tends to be more what I focus on these days, the more emotive, just hand-to-hand touching stuff versus toys. So I would say, are they important to sex? Probably say somewhat disagree, and we could work on that question. I feel comfortable visiting a sex shop, online or offline. Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. That's a very interesting one. I mean, I can see why somebody would be anxious about that. I definitely remember the first time I ever went to a sex shop, and it was mostly exciting, but a little bit nerve-wracking because I was going by myself as like, I don't know, like an 18 or 19-year-old, learning so much about the world. And it was like a whole new oyster had opened up to me, and I could just go and explore it, and it was fantastic. And it was one of the stepping stones that I eventually used to go into the kink community, but we had to start somewhere. All right, I have researched my sexual interests. What do you all think? What do you all think about that? I would say strongly agree. I often talk about my sexual interests with my sexual partner. Also strongly agree. I'm a big communication person. I know for some people, communication is like, it ruins the moment. I want to go with the flow. I just want to be able to do what I want spontaneously. And I have very much found that as you gain trust with a partner, as you get to know yourself very well and you have a very clear sense of your own personal boundaries, it becomes easy to meet in the middle and both have a lot of communication when you need to up front, but then in the moment, not need as much communication. Although I think as well, you can definitely, and I've definitely experienced and done this myself, you can naturally work in a like, pause, hey, do you need water? And then like getting back into it. It doesn't have to be awkward or moment ruining. Just to get that out there, because I always like to mention that. Just, we need to normalize communication during sex. But yes, I talk constantly, all the time. I know others with the same sexual interest as me. Online, yes. In person, not as much. I mean, because of how niche a lot of my interests are, like, you can be in a local community and you could know lots of people who are kinky that don't one-to-one share all of your kinks. Maybe you're like, oh, we both like bondage or we both like power exchange, but not the whole thing. It can actually be relatively difficult with more niche kinks to find people that you know in a friendly way and a more personal level that have the same kinks. So this is, including the internet in the knowing, for sure, definitely know lots of people. Ooh, I have outfits I wear when having sex. Again, substituting having sex with having a scene. Certainly, I like to get dressed up, but it totally depends. Yes, at like an event, at a convention, at a, fulsome event, I would definitely be dressed up, but like at home with a partner in private, not as much. I've had partners that are really into like lingerie and stuff, but like, maybe wearing a bodysuit for rope bondage, but outside of that, I'm not really a big like outfit person. Some would agree. It just depends on the context there, for sure. I like my sex to incorporate a power dynamic. Okay, yeah. This is an easy one. Yeah, strongly agree. Doesn't have to, but I think it definitely adds to the experience. It's important to chat with somebody before... How the other half lives. It's important to chat with somebody before having sex with them. I don't like to make definitive statements on my channel too often, but I am going to say I very strongly encourage you all with a new sex partner to talk about it at least a little bit first. Like a little bit. You don't have to have like a sit down 2-hour long intensive interview that you record on your phone. You can just talk about it at least to be on the same page about like protection, birth control, STI status. Are you seeing any other people currently? Is this a one-night stand? Like, what kind of sex do you want to have? Like, I feel like it's a good idea to talk at least a little bit. But yes, yeah, I think it's personally very important. But I know other people are going to do different things. And you can choose that in your own risk profile. But I also think it's okay to have a conversation. Hopefully you understand that. Okay. Casual sex is fun. Okay. The kink analog to this is pickup play can be fun, right? And I think that's very true. But also, that's not one-to-one with casual sex. And honestly, what does casual sex have to do with kink? And all I can think of right now is the movie Strange Darling. And I feel like that's a great cautionary tale, obviously not very realistic, but a cautionary tale nonetheless about the risks of having a kink-based casual sex with strangers you picked up at a bar. So, yeah, it can be fun. I love doing pickup play with people I know. I'm going to say neither agree nor disagree. I think that's going to be closest to how I feel about this one. All right, 2 more. Having chemistry with your sexual partner is important. I feel like somehow I'm learning more about allosexual people in this quiz than this quiz is learning about me. I thought the whole point was to have sexual chemistry. How often, please let me know, how often do people have sex with no sexual chemistry? Because I thought, isn't sexual chemistry what attraction is based on? Or, I guess maybe you can have chemistry, like you work well together sexually, but not necessarily be physically or aesthetically attracted to each other? But then how does that correlate with sexual attraction? I have so many questions. I need to interview an allosexual and ask them these questions. I need to know. Give me the answers. Okay, I'm gonna say strongly agree, because I think that's very important to have chemistry with the person. For me, romantic chemistry, they didn't specify the kind of chemistry. I'm gonna say romantic chemistry is very important. I feel comfortable purchasing items from a sex shop, offline or online. Okay, yeah, I've done it many times before. Not always in the safest ways, but I've done it. All right, strongly agree. All right, we're wrapping up, I think. All right, let's see what the results are here, folks. Let's read them. Okay, it's got some paragraphs going on here. All right. Thank you for taking part in the kink orientation scale. You scored 82 out of 90, which means you scored in the highest quartile of responses. And you're in the kinkiest group. This means you have a strong kink orientation, or simply that you're kinky. This might mean that you know your interests are kinky. Again, what do you all think? That you view yourself as kinky, and so do others. That you understand the importance of communication within kink and sex. Ooh, so if you don't think communication is as important, you're less likely to be kinky. I could see that, because I think the community does really emphasize communication, so that makes sense, actually. Or that you use kink-related gear. However, this scale is just one way of measuring an individual's kink orientation. Kink is a really complex concept. We agree here. We absolutely do. And then it gives you some information about, there's a book that came out. Ooh, discount code for a % off the book. Okay, that's worth it. I've been looking at the book, actually. I haven't bought it yet because I have a bunch of other stuff to read first, but okay. And then there's individual categories. So for kink identity, which refers to how people can view kink as a central component of their sense of self, a higher score in this indicates that you are more likely to believe you are kinky and share your kink interests with others. You scored 15 out of 15 on this. And then there's kink practices, which refers to the extent to which your sexual practices are related to kink or BDSM, bondage, domination, sadism, and masochism. That is, while kink is a state of mind, there are common practices. Research has regularly shown that key aspects of kink include a sense of risk, consensual pain, inflicting or receiving, and a power dynamic. There may also be an understanding that your sexual practices, fettuccinis, or activities are more niche or non-normative. Yeah, very much so. A higher score indicates a more likely engagement in common kink practices. You scored a 23 out of 25. And then kink paraphernalia refers to how people can incorporate items and equipment into kink activities, and for some are of central importance. A higher score here indicates how important sex toys are to you and your comfortableness obtaining them. You scored 12 out of 15 on this. Kink community refers to the social aspect of kink and how people enjoy discussing their sexual interests with others. Kink often occurs within subcultures or communities such as munches or specific sex events, and so kinky people often know others with similar interests. When part of a sexual subculture, kinky people will often research their interests or may wear outfits while having sex, such as hoods, masks, etc. A higher score here means you are more likely to engage with the social components of kink. You scored a 19 out of 20 on this. And then finally, sexual communication refers to how important communication is to you within a kink context. Discussing kink interests, hard and soft limits, safe words, and boundaries with a partner can be particularly important to people who are kinky. Also, kinky people are often curious about their interests and may wish to educate themselves more through experimenting, conducting internet research, or simply speaking to others about them. I have certainly found that to be true myself. Kink can involve risk and potential harm, and feeling comfortable with who you intend to do kink with is very important, and in sex in general. A higher score on this demonstrates an understanding of the importance of communication in a sexual context. You scored 13 out of 15 on this one. So that is my score on everything. I am not the most kinky person ever because I guess I don't care about sex toys enough. That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day there. So yes, that is the KOS, and what are my thoughts about it? So I think this is a good starting point. I think if we're looking at it from the perspective of a tool for researchers to use, I think more of that is better. I think there could be some refinement in the questions. And again, to me, it's not super clear where the line is between bedroom kink and community participation, because they didn't really ask about that too directly, like how often you go to a munch, or like whether or not you, like, I guess the friends question maybe. Like there's some things that kind of get to it sideways, which maybe is the point, but I feel like I was having a little bit of trouble understanding exactly what was going on with that aspect of the analysis. And again, I know for a lot of people, their relationship to kink is totally sexual. So for them, the way this is phrased makes complete sense. But for myself and many other people I know who watch this channel, they are very involved with kink and it's their lifestyle, and they run events and they go to munches and all of that. And it's a big part of all their relationships, but they don't relate to it in a sexual way at all. Or at least if they do relate to it sexually, it's not in a direct way that maybe a vanilla person could more easily relate to. So I feel like maybe expanding on that could be worthwhile. I think this serves a very different purpose from the BDSM test. Like, the BDSM test is about identifying what your potential kink interests are. Like, are you into age play? Are you into bondage? Whereas this is about, are you like kinky at all? Like, if you are kinky, where are you on that spectrum? More of like a Kinsey scale thing of like, oh, like, are you a little bit bisexual? Are you totally bisexual? Where are you? And I think that can be a good starting point for people, because with the BDSM test, like, you do get percentages, and if all of them are relatively low, it may make you question, well, am I just vanilla? Like, how much does this number even really count? And maybe that's more what this is for, is identifying, like, are you kind of kinky? Are you super kinky? Where do you fall on that spectrum? So yeah, I think I wanted more out of this, I guess. I'm not really sure what I was expecting. When I heard about it online, Justin Miller had reviewed it on his blog, and I had really high hopes for it, and unfortunately it was not quite what I thought it would be. Hello, puppy, you've decided to visit us. Hello. My dog just walked in. She wanted to come say hi. Hi. I know, whenever I'm filming in here with all the lights and everything set up, she's like very confused by the change in the room. But in any case, thank you all so much for watching. I'm very eager to hear your thoughts about this one in a comment down below. If you have anything you want to share, do it there. And if you want to support what I do, you can go ahead and subscribe, because I make videos twice a week about all different kink and BDSM related topics, as well as things about sex and relationships, and increasingly more things about scientific research as well, because I think that is a big area that deserves some coverage. And then finally, if you really want to support what I do, the best way you can do that is with Patreon. Link to that will be down below. If you do already support there, thank you so, so much. It means the absolute world to me. And until I see you all next time, I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.